Welcome. Um, my name is Amanda. I am one of the staff therapists here at, and so I'm also the newly appointed liaison for the Veteran and Success Center. If you've been here for some time, you probably remember Drew, I think was here. So, after he resigned, he did liaison, and let's see. So I'm trying to get a little bit more of a routine to hang out in the Veteran Success Center. You guys may see me there. I'm just sitting in the corner working on a computer, but you guys are more than welcome to say hey and ask any questions you guys have related to CAPS. I should probably clarify. Do you all know what CAPS stands for? Or what it is? Oh, there it is. You got the answer right in front of you. So it's a counseling and psychological services. And at the end of our my presentation, we'll talk a little bit more about CAPS and what we have to offer and how we can support you here in your journey. So if you guys have any questions at any time, feel free to stop me, raise your hand, whatever. I feel like it's just such an intimate, like, little group here. So I love interaction and engagement. So the more the merrier. So just let me know about questions or comments or anything. So we'll get started. And let's see. So before we begin, and I do want to apologize because it may have a lot more verbiage like towards like veterans, but I want to make sure, yes, I am aware of some of y'all might be military family, have like the family members that have been in the military. So I want to make sure you all know that you're included in this. But before we begin, what are some assumptions maybe regarding veterans going back to college? Anyone want to share maybe assumptions made regarding veterans or military family members of veterans going back to college? Yes.
Under an assumption, I think people might assume veterans are capable of doing more, at least in an academic sense, because they've been in like the military.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I feel like that's speaking as a veteran. I don't feel like that's true.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Because I, served in the Army doesn't mean I excel academically.
Right. Sure. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Certainly. Any other assumptions that maybe you heard yourself personally or someone has shared with you? Okay. So we'll integrate that too into the presentation today. Obviously, more presentations called combating burnout. So what might be a couple of stressors that can contribute to burnout? Doesn't have to be necessarily that you've experienced, but maybe just in general. And we're going to talk a lot about that. So, but I just want to hear from you guys, stressors that might contribute to burnout.
I was only talking.
Okay, that's okay.
Two that come straight, well, maybe I take that back, 3.
Okay.
Pressure to succeed, being overworked, but I know that's a bit of a fluid thing, and not enough personal time.
Okay.
Everyone has their stressors, and I feel like if you don't take time to relieve that stress, it's just kind of put up.
Yep. Yeah, thank you. We're going to talk pretty much about, all 3 of those that you mentioned there. So, yeah, thank you for sharing. So we are going to go ahead on the next slide. We talk about why veterans may experience burnout and specifically, in college. So we're talking about the transition from military to civilian life. And so there are unique pressures related to that. One can be these assumptions that come, as this gentleman shared here. So it can be assumptions, it could be pressures that we put on ourselves or expectations that we put on ourselves as well, that lead to a higher rate of burnout. So obviously we have here academic pressure, social and cultural adjustment. I feel like that one is also a big one. As our
Ryan.
As Ryan shared, balancing the work, personal life, family responsibilities. Also, maybe there can be an elevated mental health challenge, just with their experience of being in the military. Or if you haven't been in the military and you're a family member, like your parents have, there can also be just the experience of, moving around, not having like a stable local living situation, moving out of the country, into the country, on base, off base, like, just different things like that. So the adjustment coming to college can be unique, for sure. Does anyone want to share any experience or any thoughts about this?
I mean, I guess from the social and cultural adjustments, I'm like a decade older than everyone, most students on campus. And the amount of things you can say I have in common with them can be counted on one team. So, I don't really take part I rarely take part in study groups or anything else because, often it's like, I live off campus, so it's not like for most, they can just walk back to their dorm rooms. I have to catch the bus back to my apartment.
Right. Yeah, thank you for sharing. I don't know why I didn't. That's kind of like this one too, just sometimes starting later, college later can be that we feel like separated from maybe the majority of the students. So I don't know if we feel like we might stand out a little bit more, and even thank you for sharing about study groups too. We might feel a little bit awkward attending some of those if everyone appears younger or is younger in age. So we'll talk a little bit about those unique challenges. So you mentioned age, difference in age sometimes is something that's something that's different. Going back to college, the transition stress, adjusting to the civilian life. So at CAPS, we see a variety of individuals, and I can say in general, I've had some clients that are post-military, and that's something that definitely comes to light is like, it just seems very different. Like the mindset is so different, and civilians walk around having this different perspective, while post-military or family members, that students that have family members in the military, we just have such a different perspective, right?
Yeah.
Does anyone want to speak on that, on maybe when they're on college campus and maybe seeing some of the students might seem a little bit more free and relaxed and let's do this college experience, and well, maybe you might be feeling a little bit tense related to it or more focused, right? Anybody have a comment or?
I definitely feel the kind of tense thing you're talking about. I think a lot of students are just kind of more carefree.
I elaborate what I was saying about like the age difference.
Mhm.
I also was underlining was like life experience.
Sure.
Most of these, like this is their first time away from home. And for some of them, it's not even that far. A lot of them are from like neighboring states.
Sure.
I'm from California and I left home to join the army and got shipped to Afghanistan in less than 6 months afterwards.
Okay.
So, so it's just like when I hear some of them talk about certain things, like, I don't know, it seems like, that's nothing compared to the things I've seen and done or had to experience.
For sure.
Or seen others experience.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say, even Ryan, even adults that haven't been in the military and are coming back to college. So even if they're 10, 15 years older than the average, entering college student, there's still a change. I mean, like a difference, for those who've been in the military. Even if I don't know how old anyone is, but so say we're going back to college at 30, 35. there's still those differences between post-military and, someone who hasn't been in the military. So again, traveling on the front lines, et cetera, that whole experience. Yes.
I was just gonna add to that, like, I think an annoyance for me when I first came here, coming back into like academia, was just it seemed like there wasn't as much, I don't know, respect or maturity from some of the students, like in a giant lecture hall, just the focus they have or the respect they give to the professor. You've got people watching, movies in class or sport or, whatever, and there's the distraction aspect, but it's also kind of like just a lack, I feel like it's a lack of respect to that person, their time. It's like, why even come if you're not going to pay attention, sort of deal. So that always bugged me. I've gotten used to it now. Kind of learned to zone out, tune out those folks. But in the military environment, or even as you mentioned, like non-traditional adults coming back, there's just kind of that sense of respect that you wouldn't do that, especially in the military environment. If there's somebody superior over you, you're gonna like focus on what they have to say, give them the floor. So it's just interesting. Seeing like and I think a lot of times it happens with like the freshman, sophomore levels. And I think they mature into that as they get older, but it's a difference, I guess.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Go ahead.
I definitely saw, because I took a semester off for training, and right after I came back, I reintegrated with class. It definitely is a difference in maturity and stuff, and being from the training and everything was so structured and everyone else, and it was just weird.
And there's absolutely a different perspective of like priorities and again, respect. I really should have gone with my gut and attached this little video. And there was probably about 6 veterans talking about their experience with going back to college. And literally that's exactly what one of them said about the disrespect, and the lackadaisical attitude about academics and their professors and not having that respect. So exactly. So thank you for sharing. And I think even already in this conversation, talking about the isolation, difficulty connecting with peers, who lack that shared experience. And so you might find someone who's also 37 and just going back to college. But again, the shared life experiences are very different. And even if, you're the younger adult, again, that structure that you really held to, it's hard to connect, and relate sometimes. Let me ask you this question. I mean, how might you lean in or engage into college experience for what it is when we're feeling maybe a little bit of a disconnect? Does anyone want to share how they get around maybe feeling isolated? Lean in socially, because like here at Purdue, right? I think I just heard in an orientation, there's well over 700 different kind of clubs to get involved in. And so you could think, there's got to be something I can get, connect with, so clubs, organizations, things like that. Are we still finding it difficult to connect with our peers?
I feel like that's a lob for PSVO.
Oh.
The Student Veteran Organization is like just I don't know. For me, when I came here, that was a source of just commonality and meeting other people of a similar background. So. But everything you just said is kind of like what we stand for. Is just, people of similar backgrounds, maybe a similar age demographic. Just, one room and just meeting each other, hopefully building some lasting relationships. That's helped me.
Yeah, great. Thank you for sharing. Anyone?
I was gonna say, I'm not a veteran, but I grew up in. And I think moving around so often, my brother and I learned to become dependent on our family. And so like withdraw from society a little. So for me, like it's been really hard going to college because like my parents are the only people who talk to me. She's like, Avery, you need to talk to other people.
Right.
So even if it's like there's a ton of clubs, but I found one that's like just 10 people. It's like a really niche club, and even if I struggle to go to meetings, it's, they're really nice.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, certainly, because, again, in generally speaking, at CAPS, we have both. You know, we have, again, post-military clients, and then we have clients of that their family members are military. And so we talk about that kind of dynamic of the structure, feeling alienated or feeling so tight knit to your family. It's hard to almost like trust, right? Trust is another issue too. That can be a theme in trying to connect with people. So what was the organization you mentioned?
Purdue Student Veteran Organization,
Okay.
PSVO.
He's the president.
Okay, yes.
I had to put my little pitch in there,
That's
because it was like, that was like perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. We talk about perfectionism and responsibility. Feeling may be feeling an overwhelming sense of duty to excel. I think Ryan mentioned that at the beginning. That because we excelled in the military, or even with our family, that automatically academically should be top notch. We won't have any kind of struggle academically. And we might hold ourselves to this high standard, right? We might hold ourselves to, because I excelled in this other area of my life, well, I'm going to enter academia, and of course I'm going to excel, and I'm going to push myself to this high, standard.
I also think there's a little bit of pressure about the way that the education is being paid for, right? So there's a lot of students that are getting their education through earned education benefits, the GI Bill and others. And whether it's the veteran who says to themselves, I know what I went through to be here, and I want to do well here because I went through X, Y, and Z to get here. Or it's even the military family member who says, my parent went through X, Y, and Z so that I could be here, and I don't want to let my parent down. I think there's a lot of pressure on our military connected student population just because of how their education is being funded, and they don't, fail their own efforts or disappoint the parent who sacrificed so much to enable them to come and get the world-class education that Purdue offered.
Yeah, thank you. Right.
And kind of add on to that, since I am using the GI Bill, this is not an emotional, but more of a financial pressure. If I was to drop a class, which I likely will this semester, I owe the VA back all the money that they paid for it. So it's kind of also, there's a bit of that added thing like, okay, I don't want to suffer academically and get a bad grade, but at the same time, if I do that, I'm going to have to pay back money to that. And since the GI Bill pays out by time, not by total cash amount, technically you're not going to get that back. I'm using GI Bill for these months. I don't get these months back.
Right.
That's just how they work.
Certainly. And that's very unique, population. So then we have physical and emotional health as well. So whether we have physical injuries, emotional injuries, or even just processing, like your body is in a completely different state of mind when you're in the military, or military family member. Your body is responding to this story, if you will, of day to day, and the demands of being kind of in that time, that season of your life. When you are out of that, your body's now readjusting to like, how do I do this with a different kind of structure? You have to now set this kind of structure for yourself, or you have to tell yourself, wait, I'm not going to get up and move again, in 6 months or a year or whatever it is, if you're a family member of a military individual. And so physically, your body's responding to that. Emotionally, you're processing through that. All while starting a new season of your life, studying and seeking a degree, right? Talk about some pressures. So, okay. So the next thing here we're gonna talk about is feeling toasty. We often talk about, we just dived into burnout, but there's something that happens before burnout. And I call it feeling a little toasty, right? And so sometimes most often it's going to be this gradual shift to, so I'm not, feeling a little extra stress, like a little stressed, pressures come down on exams, projects, papers, things like that. But I love this little kind of statement from calm.com. They have the app too. I don't know if you most likely have seen it at some point, but stress is when your body reacts to pressure and demands with a burst of energy, faster heartbeat, and more alertness. So that actually sounds, I wouldn't say kind of positive, but it's kind of like helping us, right? Like, okay, I've got to like dig in, I got to get going, I got to get this done. And so it kind of, gives us that boost. However, burnout can happen when the stress has gone on for too long. So it's draining your energy and motivation. It's more than just feeling exhausted from like, oh, I have 14 credits or whatever, I got 3 papers to do. It's more than just that. It begins to feel empty or you have nothing left to give. Okay. I'm sure, I'm not going to ask to raise your hand, but I'm sure we all felt a little toasty before. Okay. I have. So it's just important to pay attention to those differences. I really like this next slide here, and we're going to talk a lot more in detail about these, but it just kind of shows the difference between stress and burnout. I love how it talks about overengagement is more related to stress, disengagement for burnout. Is that surprising to hear disengagement with burnout?
Never guessed it, but it makes sense.
Yeah, right. So when we're burnout, we're not pushing ourselves all the more. Sometimes it's really this disengagement of what needs to be done. Stress, loss of energy, burnout, completely loss of motivation. Stress takes primarily a physical toll on our bodies. Burnout primarily takes an emotional toll. Okay. So burnout is the accumulation of unchecked stress over a long period of time. So remember, stress is stress, but it can become toasty and then burnout over a long period of time. So any comments or observations about stress and burnout? Okay, so we're gonna just check in with understanding what burnout is. I think you guys are getting it. So we have emotional exhaustion, decreased motivation, maybe even a sense of hopelessness, lack of accomplishment, physical and mental fatigue. And then, as mentioned before, those key symptoms, chronic anxiety, difficulty concentrating, feeling isolated, like maybe no one else can understand what's happening. So how to recognize burnout in yourself. So it's really important. We have these 3 categories here: mental signs, physical signs, behavioral signs, difficulty focusing, lack of enthusiasm for school activities or other things, feelings of inadequacy or frustration. Can anyone share another maybe sign of burnout mentally?
Difficulty remembering,
Uh-huh.
being forgetful.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
Complacency and just going through the motions kind of mindset, not really dedicating yourself to the task.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's good. Some physical signs: fatigue, poor sleep quality, headaches, other stress-related ailments. Can anyone share some physical signs of burnout?
Not sure if it is, but feeling physical discomfort when you're in class, like an aching muscle or something, even though it like wasn't bothering you 30 minutes ago, but now it is, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yep, I would say so. I think that can be individualized for everyone. The stress-related ailments, So even things that, kind of like Brian was saying, never really bothered us before, but like achy joints, nausea, I'm feeling just like sick to our stomach all the time. Maybe just like something in our throat, like it's hard for us to swallow. Can be a physical sign of burnout.
I was just gonna add, like, maybe a sign of extended burnout is even if you are getting quote unquote like enough sleep, maybe it's not feeling like it's enough, to recharge.
Yeah. So even like the quality of sleep versus the quantity. Yeah, I have individuals that will say I get 8 to 10 hours of sleep, but they still don't feel rested, so it's kind of think what's happening during that time.
I was gonna say maybe under eating or overeating for stress reasons.
Yeah. Excuse me. Behavioral signs can be withdrawal from social or academic activities, increased procrastination, avoidance of tasks. What might be another behavioral sign related to burnout?
If you want to get something done, but you can't, just don't feel motivated to get it done, you get frustrated with yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I was thinking that exact same thing. Increased agitation, irritability, right?
Lack of commitment, like saying you have something that needs to get done, you just like, I don't care anymore.
Mhm.
Or poor self-talk, like just not being kind to yourself
Right.
through it all. And I think that's maybe all of them
Yep.
together. Helping that.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that sometimes we talk about this in therapy or some of the groups that we do, but really slowing down and paying attention to how your body is responding. Sometimes individuals will say, oh, I never felt this way before, or it was just, 3 days ago that I started feeling this. But truly, if we pause and start to think about it, like our body starts to tell us the story of feeling toasty and then burnout. And it's so important to be aware of the symptoms your body is kind of sending you. And again, like I mentioned, it's very individualized. Noting like I'm not thinking the same way that I normally did. Like I don't usually say these mean things about myself. A withdrawal, like the withdrawal from social things, like maybe you were attending group more often or your club and you start not, you start missing groups more often. So it's important to pay attention to that for yourself and be aware, like we're talking about self-awareness. And then, when you are creating a community, these are individuals that can also call that out for you too. So. Any other comments?
I would say just big swings in behavior or demeanor. If a person's normally very chipper and happy and seems very positive all the time, suddenly is not. They're very down or very quiet or swinging the other way. Somebody who's normally pretty serious and stern, acting totally out of character. Those could be signs of getting toasty or reaching burnout points and just major changes in personality behaviors.
Yeah, that's really good. It's a good one. Very true. Another one about burnout. Oh, doubting kind of your purpose. Doubting, is this really where I'm supposed to be now? Questioning, do I continue this? Did I make a mistake? That can also be some of the talk that we have inside when we're getting to burnout. You all know, have you guys seen or know anyone that has truly experienced burnout? What that looks like. Maybe it's in yourself. Maybe it's yourself.
I have to say, like, speaking for myself, I feel like burnout and a lot of these things I could also replace burnout with like just seasonal depression.
Mhm.
Or just, if it's not depression, just a sadness,
Sure.
winter months, not enough sunlight.
Mhm.
And some of these kind of overlap into that, so,
Sure thing.
certainly see that in myself from time to time, if it's, a couple weeks of just, it's
Mhm.
doom and gloom, cloudy.
Mhm.
Or whatever, and that just amplifies maybe maybe there's a tough time in the semester school wise, and, just a combination of things. That can feel like a lot of these things that we're talking about with burnout.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah, and then, especially like that, because again, it's knowing the difference, between stress, between maybe some seasonal kind of depression, low mood, burnout, anxiety, worry, like all those things they can overlap, but certainly if you need, a therapist or a mentor or someone who can help you kind of differentiate between some of those things and validate those things, and then get you kind of the support that you need, which kind of brings us to the next slide here. Strategies to combating burnout. I don't have a fancy slideshow where they all come up one at a time, so they're all there. So I would really want them covered up, and because I'm sure everyone's like reading ahead. That's just what we do naturally, but that's okay. So setting realistic expectations, breaking tasks into manageable steps, because sometimes it just becomes this big mound of like, we've got to do it all at once. Okay. And so it kind of just setting these things that have to be done, including taking care of ourselves, into little bites and pieces that are realistic. Okay. Celebrating small wins. That's huge. Okay. We were able to mark off one thing off our list, like get outside for 5 minutes. That's a win. So I want to hear some of your small wins too, but that's where I have your turn. What are your thoughts about setting realistic expectations to combat burnout? Yes. Hey, I don't know if y'all heard what Avery said, but she's like getting her laundry done is a small win, which I think it's a large win, because if you can wash it, dry it, fold it, and put it away, that's like really good. So, yeah, I agree with that one. Anyone else?
Yeah, kind of on that topic, just, things around the apartment, the house, the dorm, whatever, just cleaning or little tasks like that, that you can just feel a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah.
They're very manageable, it takes little time,
Yes.
but it makes your future self thankful,
Yeah, absolutely. Those little things, the reason why it's important to celebrate the small wins, everyone now is talking about like dopamine, but really it is a burst of dopamine, when we can check it off our list and we can say, okay, I actually did complete something. When we are in the burnout zone, we just feel like we can't accomplish anything. We just feel like so defeated, like we can't do it. And so even setting ourselves up to have these small wins really can give us some of that boost that we need to feel like the other things can be manageable as well. Okay, so we'll move on to prioritizing self-care. So making time for physical activity, hobbies, practicing mindfulness, relaxation techniques. I'm gonna leave something on the counter just talks about deep breathing. So you guys are welcome to check it out. I mean, this is on the 4 count of breathing in, breathing out. There's other counts like the 7-11 technique for breathing in. We breathe in at 7 for 7 seconds and then breathe out for 11 seconds. So how can we prioritize self-care? And self-care is such a wide, I think, scope, and very individualized. So it's your turn. What are some things that you can do to prioritize self-care? Yes, Ryan.
Something I've been trying to do this semester, and honestly not working very well, is at the end of the day, I usually go home around 4:30, 5 o'clock.
Mhm.
Cause I'm here I have class at every morning at 8:30, so I'm
Okay.
here all day.
Mhm.
But basically, as soon as I leave, I'm done.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter if I have everything done or not, or whatever. Sometimes I will try to do some more work in my apartment if I can, but
Mhm.
usually I have to turn in early because I have to get up early, so I go home, I cook dinner, I eat it, I watch some TV. I basically do anything that is not school
Yeah.
related, and then that's just, like I said, I don't think it's really working from an academic point of view, just because, like I said, I'm probably gonna have to drop a class just to
Sure.
lighten my load and all that, but that's what I've been trying to do, just.
Yeah. And that takes I'll tell you what, that takes a lot of discipline. And it's like a boundary, a personal boundary you set for yourself. Similar to bringing work home. I've been at previous jobs where I do my 8, 9 hours a day, and then I still bring laptop home to do work. And it just, how is my mind and emotions and physically, how am I recharging if I just extend my workday to 10, 12 hours a day? Even then I was like, oh, well, I'll just do a little bit on Saturday. Then I'm working a 6-day, type week. And so that's not really prioritizing. So I hear what you're saying, Ryan, about just like giving yourself this cut off, time for no school, no laptop, no, none of that. Anyone else? Can anyone else share or think of something in general to prioritize self-care?
Building it into your routine. Don't leave it up to chance, whether or not you're, let's say physical exercise.
Mhm.
You're gonna go to the gym or run or do whatever physical exercise suits you. Don't leave it to chance whether you're gonna get it in today or not. Build it into your routine as part of how your day is gonna work. Whether it fits better in the morning, midday, evening, whatever. But building it into your routine helps ensure that it's going to happen. Even if it's a 10-minute workout, because that's all you can free up time for, that's 10 minutes invested into yourself and your own self-care.
Schedule in the mornings at like 6
Mhm.
to do a workout because I know there are all the excuses like I have homework. Other things can get in the way of that. So I gotta get it done.
Yeah, I agree. Like how Ryan was saying, this semester he was trying something new. So this semester for myself, I'm over at Push, and I just don't feel good about being in the building for 8 hours from 8 to 5. I just don't feel like that's healthy. And so I have been challenging myself, like at noon, I have got to like run out the door. I'm like, shut everything down, lock my door, like run out the door and get out for at least 15 to 20 minutes. And even in the winter, I was like, I just need that fresh air. It just was not healthy to be, and especially it's like an old building, so I'm sure there's just lots of whatevers in there. But but it has to be like this discipline and prioritizing. If I say like, oh, let me just do this email real quick or make this phone call, 12 o'clock becomes 12:10, which becomes 12:17, which becomes 12:30. I'm like, eek, I don't know that I can get out anymore. So it's really highlighting that we're prioritizing it. So
Just treating it like it's its own class. you
yeah,
know, With mandatory attendance.
yeah, mandatory attendance. Absolutely. So creating a support system, kind of talked about a little bit, connecting with veteran student organizations, other campus partners, reaching out to CAPS or any other mentors. There's a lot of different programs too. ODOS has, some support as well. Some of the freshman students have shared with me about mentoring, like be a success coach or something. For freshmen, they have that. I don't know if you all have anything else to share about creating a support system. We kind of talked a little bit about that already. And it's important that also I would have to encourage, we have to be intentional about it. During our burnout time, again, we might say like, oh, I can't connect with anyone. I don't feel connected. I feel disengaged. I'm not talking to anyone, but what kind of efforts are you putting into reaching out to those around you? And we have to like push ourselves, and also, I don't have a slide on this, but being proactive in these. Let's not wait until we're toasty and burnt out. Don't wait. like, let's do this now. And that's called being preventative, right? Not in kind of prevention and not like reactive to, to like, okay, I'm completely burnt out. I think I want to quit or whatever. Really lean into being to the prevention of burnout. So I don't think I had a complete slide on that, but managing your time, which we talked a little bit about already, time blocking or planner. How do y'all stay organized with your schedule and times? Yeah, keep going. Ryan?
What I did at the beginning of the semester was like when I was on my Purdue,
Mhm.
I pulled up the weekly calendar of my class schedule and took a picture of it with my phone.
Okay.
So it had, what class, the time, location, professor.
Mhm.
And I consult that all the time just to remind myself, what do I need to go? Where do I need to be? And when do I need to be there?
Okay.
And then usually I use Brightspace to try to keep on top of work assignments.
Okay. Yeah. Anyone else want to share how they manage their time or stay organized?
So I put literally everything on my digital calendar.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you were to look at my calendar, I even have it like color coded.
Okay.
So like class related stuff is like green, club stuff is like purple, like
Mm-hmm.
personal items are like pink,
Mm-hmm.
So that's just, and that gives me like a visual of like how much time. And then I don't know if we started talking about this, but scheduling downtime. I'm only just now starting to implement the fact that if you put yourself available to work at every time you can physically work, you will be scheduled at every time you can physically work. And my parents would get so mad at me because I would complain about my hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just now started being like, I don't want to work 8 hours a day, so I'm not gonna work.
Yes. Yeah. And sometimes you have to block that out. That's right. I have students that, still use the old school agendas. And I'm like, wow, good for you. That's awesome. Some are very like thick, nowadays they have these real like thick agendas that have like year goals and monthly goals and all kinds of checkouts lists. I don't think any excuse not to, there's so many resources basically to learn how to manage your time, from apps to calendars to the agendas. Purdue offers whatever they do for calendars, et cetera. So that's important as well. And then seeking professional help. So we talked again about that, whether through CAPS or CAPS even has a resource specialist who can help you find a provider in the community as well. So even if it's not something, you want to meet with a CAPS therapist, we certainly can help you find someone in the community that you can meet with. Keep up with your physicals and tend to physical symptoms. So I really wanted to word that differently, but basically I want to say like professionally, keep up with like your PCP, like your family doctor or, your primary care physician. I don't know, if we get into the habit of neglecting our annual physicals or we have an ailment, we're just like, like let it go. And then it turns into something else, which then compiles into something else. So it's really important to keep up with even just our general physical health by, seeing a regular physician.
I think that's that one strikes home for me because I hadn't even established a PCP here until like last fall. And I feel like I'm not the only one that has that as from a student perspective, but also student veterans, you're just moving all around.
Yeah.
It's neglected after a while, especially maybe if now the military isn't telling you, to go to medical.
Right.
So you're just like, all right, now it's up to me. And maybe it just, slips your mind or it's just a low priority thing.
Yeah.
So even just getting to that point of finding one and then make the next step and go. But
Yes.
I feel like that's a common issue,
It's the same. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's absolutely true. And it's not always easy, like navigating insurance and who takes my insurance and then finding a provider that you kind of mesh well with and availability. And you're like, what? I can see you in 2 months? Like, okay. So yeah, that can be a barrier, but, again, that's why I want to be preventative and not just like reactive, like, I really need someone now. So, I'm also going to be leaving these on the table or just here. They're, again, pretty basic and things that we are speaking about today, but this one talks about self-care tips. And this one here is talking about creating work-life boundaries. So I didn't put them in the slides in particular, but they're really in general things that we've been talking about here today. So again, these are things that we are reviewing, creating balance, establishing a routine, like someone mentioned here, like it has to be in the routine for studying, work, relaxation. Using the calendar or planner, we just spoke all about that. And even not like not being shy to ask for accommodations or support if needed. So again, I've been in the mental health field for some time now, but at Purdue, I'm fairly new. I started last summer. But just learning about all the supports and resources that Purdue has to offer, and just like, wow, it seems like it doesn't stop, but they have like academic support, tutoring. And so ask for help, what is it? It's not ODOS, it's the DRC Disability Resource Center. So, even then, the Academic Success Center. Any other ones that I missed?
So those are the big two.
Yeah.
There are others out there. A lot of the stuff we do is duplication of effort, so that Purdue likes duplications of effort. They like a lot of people doing a lot of the same things to support different students in whichever way makes them most comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like these overlapping umbrellas of support where you can find similar support and services in a couple of different places, depending on where you find yourself within the Purdue population. So I feel like it's a pretty well overlapped areas. You can find support for just about anything here on Purdue University.
Yeah, yes, that's what I'm finding out too. And so just, even if it's just ask one person, ask Brian, come to CAPS, and go to ODOS and just say, call them. And it's super easy to make these appointments too. I found out, you just go online and like put your name in, your ID, and like make the appointments. It's super, they make it very convenient. So reach out, don't hesitate to reach out and ask, like, can you help me find this? This is what I'm in need of. Then again, we spoke about managing expectations, understanding that setbacks are normal and that your college experience is an individual experience. So I just really want to highlight that. We have students from all kinds of backgrounds come in and, are really frustrated because they're not completing their degree in the time that they thought they would. They came and said, I'm going to do this in 3 or 4 years and I'll be done. And then a setback happens. And sometimes it can have the propensity, to just like throw them off track. They're on this like mindset of this is what it's going to look like. And then it doesn't look like that. And then we get really discouraged, or we push it. And then we come to the burnout. So really, please understand that it's very individualized experience for you guys. And so, to kind of refrain from the comparison trap, saying, well, so-and-so was in the military for X amount of years, or they did this, and they got theirs done, and why is it so much trouble for me, etc. So comparison, is really going to steal away like our focus on our own personal goals. So just realize that some of that, is normal for us to kind of say, let me try this track instead. So again, mentioning already seeking help when you need it. Don't have to do this alone. Focusing on progress and not perfection. Do you feel like perfection, having things perfect, is often maybe a theme within veteran students or perfection? Brian, you would say, yeah?
Yes. Like, thinking like back to basic training, you were told basically do everything perfect, because if you make a mistake, you or others could get killed, because, I was in a combat role. I really feel like my mom was a perfectionist growing up. And while, yes, I am a veteran, I'm also, my dad was in the Marine Corps, so I'm from a military family as well. So I felt like there were definitely points where I felt like looking back, I think my mom was a perfectionist, or I felt like she was one at the time. So if I didn't do everything perfect, it was not meeting her expectations.
Right. So that can carry on into our academics, right? Like, we have these, again, perfectionist kind of tendencies from our experiences growing up in a military family or just being in the military. You're not alone. Excuse me. So the transition to college life can be challenging. If we're not paying attention, it can lead to the burnout. Take breaks. Your total well-being is important. And keeping in mind, your experiences and your resiliency that helped you, whether being in the military family or in the military, can really kind of help you succeed in college. So I know a lot of things that we talked about maybe are some barriers because we have this perspective coming into college. But let's even look at those on how they can help us succeed in college, because we are so structured, because we are, have a higher level of respect for other professions. How can those things actually work for us in our college experience and preventing burnout as well. So I'm going to just briefly go over any questions on that, because I'm going to just briefly touch on CAP services and what we have to offer, how you can get connected with us if needed. Any to combating burnout. I really thank you guys for your participation and just, your openness to share your experience. So, no other questions. So I won't take too much more of your time, but so at CAPS, we have a team of, it's always growing, so I can't even tell you the exact number, but we're probably at a good 40 plus strong. We have clinicians, we have psychiatrists on staff, we have a resource specialist, we have an RN on staff. So we really want to have this kind of well-rounded support for your needs. Let's see, we do, again, clinical and preventative. So like I was mentioning, not just like, oh, I'm in big trouble and I need help to sort through something, but we really can also assist with preventative as well. So when you're feeling that toasty, come on in. The sending next day access means that you can call or you can go online to request what we call a brief phone screen. Those are about 25 minutes long, and we're just really assessing what your needs are and kind of where to place you, whether an individual, group, or we have workshops available as well. So you'll get another appointment after the brief phone screen. We don't have session limits. If you hear anyone say, oh, CAPS only gives you 6 sessions, please tell them that's not true, because Amanda said it wasn't true. So we don't have a session limit. So we spoke about that. We're accessible, we're confidential. As long as you're 18 or over, your information stays your information unless you sign a release of information for us to share with whoever you identify we need to share it with. The only time it's not confidential is if you have a plan and an intention to harm yourself or anyone else. So that's what we, basically also known as suicidal intention and plan, or homicidal intention or plan. So CAP services are free. Everything is free except psychiatry services, and that's a small fee of, I believe, like $20 for that assignment. College campuses do not prescribe stimulants. So typically, if if you take something for attention deficit, hyperactivity disorder, usually there's stimulants, and we don't prescribe that. So we would help you find a provider in the community if needed. We went over same day, next day appointments, matching what you need. Ongoing evaluation. Again, this is just our care model. Has anyone heard of TAO, TAO, the app? Okay, I should have brought the magnets too. So it's called Therapy Assistance Online, and it's for Purdue. It's for students, faculty, and staff. So anyone can access it. I actually have a screen where it has the QR code if you want to download it, and it just really has like modules for mindfulness, coping skills, deep breathing, just different things like that, and it's free. We're on social media. You all are on social media too. We have Let's Talk. Does anyone know what Let's Talk is? Okay, so we have 3 different locations. The Graduate Student Center, CROC, and the LGBTQ Center, like the library area. And so we have therapists throughout the week that are there set up for like probably 2 hours, and you can come in and just chat with them. It's like a brief chat. It's like, I've never been to therapy. What does it look like? What would it feel like? Does it cost anything? Or if you have just something you need to sort through real quick, they're there. And that's all this information is on the CAPS website. We have groups and workshops, and then of course our individual therapy. Those are some of the groups that we offer. I run the Building Social Confidence group. Another one of our therapists has Anna, she does one as well. Did you all know we had groups? We have groups. Those meet weekly, whereas our individual sessions, we utilize the brief therapy model. And so those are going to be bi-weekly with our students based off of your schedule and the therapist schedule. So we have a lot of process support, skill focused groups, as you can kind of see up there. We do workshops. Right now we have the anxiety toolbox, and you don't have to be a CAPS client to be involved in these. If you scan the QR code, you can register for those. So right now we only have the anxiety and the intercom one. I feel like it's called something else now, but if you go on our website under for students and you drop down, you'll see the workshops there. And this is our flyer for the Let's Talk. And some of the days and times, campus partnerships, again, like I'm the liaison here for the Veterans Success Center and Military Family Success Center. And then we have liaisons all over the campus as well. There is the QR code for TAO, T-A-O, and you can find that online as well if you want to access that at any time. You guys can call us. You can go online and access us. We are 24-hour access and crisis support. So Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 p.m. If you need to come in, you can come in without an appointment, and you can say, I just really need to speak to a therapist. You can walk on over. We're at Push, 2nd floor. In the middle of the hallway, there's a welcome desk. You can go there. You can call in and just say, I really need to speak to a therapist. And you can do that even after hours like now, or we have students that call in the middle of the night, whatever, you can call and access a therapist and connect with a therapist if you need. And we follow up with you in the morning time if you're ever to use that. And you just call the CAPS number. So there is that. And there's a survey if you want to take it. And then the last one is just a thank you. So anyhow, any questions? Ryan, did you want to add anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, just don't forget, Amanda comes into the office and sets up in the Veteran Multiple Success Center just to be an accessible resource. If you don't feel comfortable going over to Push to try to see CAPS, you just want to come ask her some questions or have a kind of an informal conversation, you're welcome to swing by and see her. We advertise her scheduled visits through our newsletter and stuff. Or if you want to come and have a bit of a more private conversation with her, we have spaces that we'll reserve during her visits. So, hey, this is not a conversation we need to have right in the middle of the student lounge. We'll have a space for you to go have a private conversation in a closed door room if it's something of a more sensitive nature. But just trying to do that to make their services a little bit more available to you and meet you at your level and your comfort. Yeah. Any questions or comments, anybody?
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's so glad to see you guys. I hope to see you around campus. If you see me around campus again, I might not remember you, but if you remember me again when you was more than, happy to say hi and chat a little bit. And again, everything is super confidential. So even if I speak to you at, upstairs in the Veteran Success Center or in CAPS, like if I see you around campus, I'm not gonna be like, hey, maybe at your meeting on Tuesday, like, everything's super confidential. But thank you, yes, for coming on in. I'm gonna leave these again, up to them here. There's some squeezy, stress balls over there. I had pink greens and basketballs, so your choice. And then just a CAPS like informational card over there. So you guys feel free to grab one of those. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, you're welcome.